everyone. Welcome to the first day of Summer Reading Club 2020. Imagine your story. Yay! In case this is the first time you've joined us for a virtual program, my name is Dabney. I'm the young adult librarian at the Twin Lakes Library System, and I use they, them pronouns. So, starting in April, myself and young adult assistant Abby have been doing weekly virtual programs, and on Mondays we have Must Read Monday, and that is where we do book talks on different books that we enjoy. And this summer we're going to be doing our book talks around themes from the Summer Reading Club manual. So each week there's a different theme, and this week we are using the theme Once Upon a Time, and we have a book list of recommended books on that subject. We have like a huge book list that you can look at on Beanstack that'll also be shared to Goodreads, and this is like all the books from each of the themes that we recommend that you read. And yeah, so we're gonna just jump right in. This week, I'm going to be talking about 5 different book series, and I know that might seem like a lot, and I promise I won't dwell on them too much, and I'll try to avoid spoilers as much as I can. But a lot of these books, they all have a really strong foundation in world building, which is cool because that's going to tie in with my Friday talk, which is going to be about storytelling. But world building is, typically something you will see in fantasy and science fiction, and that's where the author is creating a world and building it. So, a really great example of this, if you have watched The Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies, or even better if you've read the books, J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of those books, he was kind of like a master of world building. Not only did he create like all of these races of creatures, from hobbits to elves to dwarves to orcs to just humans, he also created languages for a lot of those, like, written languages, spoken languages. He got really in depth with it, creating like religions and really intense history and lore and creation stories. If you read the Silmarillion, that's kind of like a creation story for this world that he made. And yeah, real intense. So a lot of YA books don't go quite that in depth, but the ones we're going to talk about today do have like some really good world building that I enjoy, and they have some other common features that I'll talk about as we get into the book summaries. But our first book is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the first book in a 7-book series. And there's also like a book of collected short stories about the main character, Celaena Sardothien. And the short stories, FYI, are kind of her prequel adventures to what she was doing before this book starts. So in Throne of Glass, when the book starts, Celaena is like a slave in a prison camp known as Andovier, and the prince of the kingdom that she's in, which now I'm like, what is the name of this kingdom? I did prepare for this, but there's a lot of kingdoms. Okay, yeah, Ardalan. This is a map of the world, by the way, which this is not even the whole world. There's more to it that you'll find out in the other books. But anyways, this is where they're at in Ardalan, and she gets taken to the capital of Rifthold. So originally she's like a slave in this prison camp, and the prince of Ardalan, Dorian, he comes to recruit her to be his champion in this I guess like this contest, so like all these different fighters are brought in, and they're like there to train and compete to see who will be the champion. And Selena, the reason she is recruited is because she is a master assassin, even though she is like a teenage girl. I think she's like 17 in this book. She's like the best assassin in the kingdom, possibly in the world. She certainly thinks she's the best in the world, and she's recruited. She's very cocky and brash and sure of herself, but she's hiding like this huge secret, like nobody knows. And as she's training, she's like brought to the castle in Riftholt, and she's being trained by the captain of the guard, Kale. She's being befriended by Nehemia, who's a princess from like another country known as Eelway. And like a lot of things are happening. Like, for example, the king is super evil. He's like a conqueror who like has suppressed magic, and is just like a really, really terrible guy. And so Selena is like training and trying to keep her secrets from being revealed. And yeah, I really enjoy it because I love assassins a lot. And also, you know, even though this first book is kind of insular, like it takes place in sort of like one location, and the cast of characters is, you know, kind of small, that like explodes in the rest of the series. Like I said, there's 7 books. The last book is like this big. I haven't read it yet. It's huge. And you get, you know, tons of characters. You get to explore basically every single country within this world, and incredible world building. I love it. There's like a strong like let's overthrow the system theme that I really like, so it's very good. Our next book is kind of similar, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And unfortunately, I don't have a copy of this book. That's why I can show you this picture, though. Oh, and I forgot to say, Throne of Glass is an ebook on RBDigital. And all the books I'm talking about today, we do have physical books of them in our collection. And Children of Blood and Bone, there's an audiobook on Hoopla, and the sequel, I think it's Children of Virtue and Vengeance, is also on Hoopla. But in this book, kind of similar to Throne of Glass, there's like, it's like a whole fantasy world, and in this kingdom, the king is also really evil, and he has managed to suppress magic, so magic doesn't exist. And there's like different classes of people, and there are the Magi, and these are people who are born with the ability to develop magical powers, but of course they can't because magic has been suppressed. But our main character, Zelly, she is one of the Magi, and they get like white hair, which is cool. But anyway, so she is like the Magi are like the repressed like class within the society. They're treated really badly. And like one day when she's in the market, this girl runs up to her and is like, you know, you need to help me get out of here. You find out this girl is the princess, and she has stolen like this magical artifact, this magical scroll, and she's like on the run from her father, the evil king. And so Zelly joins up with her and Zelly's brother too, and they, you know, they get some guidance from like Zelly's mentor, and they kind of set out on this quest to try to restore magic and overthrow the evil king while being pursued by the prince Inan, who is, and I mean, like so much stuff happens in this book. It's incredible, and the world building is really interesting. Like I said, there's people who have magical powers that are currently suppressed. There's like a lot of lore and backstory. There's magical creatures. And also what's interesting is that this world is kind of based on like Nigerian culture and like West African religion, and so that's a really cool thing like you could research and find out about. And also this is going to be made into a movie at some point, which is really cool. So yeah, I encourage you to read this, but yeah, it has a strong like, you know, girls fighting back, like magic, overcoming tyranny, resistance. I love it. And similar to those two, with kind of some similar themes, is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. And this one, there is an ebook and audiobook on RBDigital. And I believe the rest of the series is on there as well. There's 2 other books after this, and we're all kind of waiting for the 4th one. This book, the world is kind of based on ancient Rome. And in this, the Martial Empire had come through and defeated the Scholar Empire like 500 years ago. And the Scholar people were basically like enslaved and treated really badly and oppressed. And one of the main characters is Leigh, and so she is from the Scholar people, and she is a slave. And at the beginning of the book, her brother is captured and taken away because, you know, they think he's part of like the resistance movement, and their grandparents are killed. And so Leigh is trying to get her brother back. She joins up with the resistance, and they end up sending her to be a servant at Black Cliff Academy. And this is like a really brutal like training regime that the martial people like send their children to, and they're basically trained for like I think 14 years. And it's supposed to be like a training ground to select the next emperor, but it also trains the kids to be like these really efficient soldiers and killers. And like once they graduate, they get like these silver masks they wear, and their abilities are like almost superhuman. So anyways, that's where Leigh gets sent there, and specifically is sent to work in the household of the commandant who runs the academy. And while she's there, she meets Elias, who is the other main character, so you get both of their points of view. And Elias is like the commandant's son. He is one of the top students, and you know, but he has like, he secretly just wants to run away and like leave the Martial Empire. He doesn't agree with their treatment of the Scholar people. Like, he's sympathetic to the resistance, so he and Leigh start working together. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but lots happens. It's pretty incredible. There are maps in here as well. I love a good map. So yeah, this is another great like resistance, let's overthrow the corrupt government type of stories that I love, with really strong, complex characters. Next up, with some fantastic world building, is the Grishaverse. So this was a world created by Leigh Bardugo. So all of her books take place in this world. The first book series is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So, and then that's followed by my personal favorite, the Six of Crows duology, followed by the King of Scars duology. And also set within this world is the Language of Thorns. So these are kind of like fairy tales and lore within this world. And in Shadow and Bone, it's mostly set in the country of Ravka, which is kind of has like, I guess like an origin from like, you know, Russian like culture. It, you know, if you're reading it, it does feel kind of like ye old Russian days. And you know, magic is alive and well in Ravka. The Grisha are what is known as the Second Army, and it's made up of people with different magical powers. So you've got people who can control the elements. You've got people who can control like human bodies and appearance, people who can manipulate like materials to invent new things, and then you've got like a few people who are like super powered and like have the ability to kind of, you know, destroy the world if they wanted to. And that first trilogy follows Alina as she's sort of like discovering her powers and learning truths about their country and their kingdom and her role in all of that. And there's like a whole quest, like epic quest story going on. And then I love Six of Crows because there's 6 main characters. They are like all criminals in some way, and I love that. And they like, you know, they have heist and different adventures, and all the characters in this are great. They're like really diverse. You know, it's just so good. I love it so much. And those books, Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone trilogy, they are being adapted into a Netflix show, which is in post-production, so hopefully we'll see it soon, and I'm excited to see my favorite characters on the screen. But yeah, really cool world building. Also has those themes of like, you know, overcoming like oppressive systems. I don't want to give too much away, but they're also similar to the other ones. And then my final book is one I read yesterday, and this is Beast Made of Night by, I'm going to try really hard to say his name, Tochi Onyebuchi. And it is kind of similar to Children of Blood and Bone because it also has like a lot of influence from Nigerian culture. And this has like some really interesting like concepts in it. So in this world, it's set in the city of Kos, and in this world, like if you commit a sin, it shows up on your body as like spots, and if that sin's not purged, you get sick and you could eventually die. And to combat this, there are mages who are able to purge you of those sins, and then Aki, and these are children who have the ability to, you know, when your sins are purged, they take on the form of like sin beasts, so they could be dragons or snakes or lions, and the Aki kill those beasts and then consume the sin, and the sin shows up on their body like as tattoos of whatever that beast was. So even though like the Aki have like this really important role within the society, which values sinlessness and purity, they're really reviled and treated badly. Like they're oppressed a lot. They don't have a long life expectancy, and like they're underpaid. It's just really bad. And the main character is Taj, and so he's different from the other Aki because while their marks will eventually fade, his never do. And as the story goes on, he kind of gets embroiled in like a conspiracy to sort of try to overthrow the king in that, you know, system. So I finished the book yesterday, and it is, let's see, it's not online, unfortunately, and neither are Leigh Bardugo's books, but they are in the collection, so you could check them out that way. But yeah, this is the first book. There's a second book as well, but again, it also has like really neat world building and some like very like lots of magic and sort of like resistance themes. So yeah, those are my like once upon a time books for this week. Again, you can find like a whole list on Beanstack, And if you haven't signed up for the Summer Reading Club, that starts today. You can sign up on Beanstack. So it's tllsga.beanstack.org. That's where you can sign up. If you watch this video in Beanstack, I didn't say it earlier, but you will need an activation code to go with this video. And your activation code is STORIES. So let me write that down for you all. And what you'll do is, when you're in Beanstack, you view this video, and then you're going to type in this code, STORIES, and yeah, that'll earn you a ticket. Every video you watch and enter the code for earns you tickets, and you can submit those tickets into drawings. And we've got 2 prizes, so do that. And yeah, we will see you Wednesday for our crafting day. We're doing Percy Jackson crafts. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Bye.